Meanwhile, 900 miles away in Chicago, Amy Meadows is designing the Christmas windows for Marshall Field's flagship store.
This year's theme is Cinderella, and Cinderella in and of itself is not a Christmas story, but we have worked, you will see throughout the story, little Christmas touches.
Amy chose the Cinderella theme after being inspired by an artist's rendering of the fairy tale.
Diana Huff provided us with such rich source material, very broad color palette, all the detail work.
Like many other store window designers, Amy's meeting up with our old friends at Spaeth Design in New York City. She sent David Spaeth and his team the initial line drawings a few months ago. Now it's time to see how things are going.
So Amy, we were challenged. We needed to make these models, so you have the benefit of seeing in miniature pretty close to what we think these are going to wind up at.
I think it's terrific. All these characters pop off the purple more than they would off the white.
Satisfied with the designs, Amy heads back to Chicago, giving Spaeth time to work their magic.
Tall set coming through.
3 months fly by just like that. Amy heads back to New York to check on the Spaeth team's progress.
I think we'll be fine, but it's always that little bit of as you start this part of the process.
Oh, look!
Amy's biggest concern has been how Cinderella's fairy godmother would turn out, and she's just about to see her for the very first time.
Oh, look at her. That's the first time I've seen the fairy godmother. That's great. That's great. Unbelievable.
Sounds like she likes it. Of course, she still has 10 more windows worth of designs to check up on.
Here's Cinderella's ball.
Well, and this is great because everything we talked about in terms of how do you take something that's so flat and illustrative and flesh it out. This is spectacular. Thank you all very, very much.
Amy must have a fairy godmother of her own watching out for her. This year's holiday windows are coming off without a hitch. So far. At Marshall Field in Chicago, Amy Meadows knows it's crunch time.
Yeah, I'm going to drop off some paint.
It's November, and for the past 3 weeks, Amy and her team have been installing the Cinderella-themed holiday windows.
Hello. That was a bit shocking to see her at eye level. Just trying to make sure there are no surprises. Every day will reach a new point of no return.
The big day arrives, and Cinderella is on her way to the ball.
We had a team work through the night last night. I'm a little nervous. There was one family that left their home in the suburbs at 5 this morning. Thanks. Keep you posted.
Finally, it's time for the party to begin. Cinderella's here to help the crowd unveil the windows, and with a wave of their magical wands, Amy's masterpieces will appear.
This is our first introduction to Cinderella. This is the ballroom scene. There are the two stepsisters up on the balcony, taking it all in. Like all good fairy tales, they're preparing to live happily ever after. This is my personal favorite, where Cinderella's being put to work, helping the sisters prep and prepare for the ball. And the extra touches, there's the cucumber mask and the portrait of the stepmother and the two stepsisters. We've added Cinderella, just trying her darndest to work inside that frame, but not quite being captured as fully as everyone else in the family. They're lined up, waiting to round the corner. This is a great start.
This is yet another view of our new State Street studio. Today we are making our debut in our new home, and this is a live picture from our camera on the Fields building on State Street. Isn't that a pretty shot?
It's
Very
great,
nice.
too.
Now, Marshall Fields, of course, is a great Chicago landmark.
And we are so glad we were able to put our camera up there, too. But one of the major attractions has been the Fields windows, and we like the idea now that we have a window and we can look out and see the Fields windows. Every year, of course, crowds line up to get a glimpse of the extravagant Christmas windows. However, the Fields design staff works works very hard all year long. They create a lot of eye-catching displays that dazzle anybody who walks by. And joining us now is Amy Meadows, who is in charge of all of these fabulous windows. I love what's going on there now with these kinds of flowers.
Well, thank you. And this is what's going on State Street now is a very good example of what we're challenged with day in and day out. You may have gotten your catalog at home. You may have seen some of the print or TV, and you're going like, and we'll get that, and we'll say, well, that's lovely. That's flat. How are we going to turn that into an interesting window? Yes. How are we going to make that a really compelling environment? And if you are on State Street right now, you'll see that we've used dimensional flowers. We've added vinyl. We've gone into spring 2 right now, which is when we started. Everything was very blue and white, but now we're introducing the spice tones and doing all of that.
And I was just telling you, with these three-dimensional flowers, you have made skirts for some of the mannequins.
Yes.
I'm thinking, I want to wear one of those. It's so
I have to ask you the question everybody asks you. Where do you get these ideas?
Well, there's a lot of coffee involved. And beyond that, we look to TV, movies, museums for inspiration. We have our offices covered with tear sheets and ideas. But then we also find a lot of our inspiration or our props in fairly unexpected places. For example, this is a very small portion of a piece that was actually an entire back wall of a window, creating a curtain. But these are binder rings.
Oh, I remember that.
Binder rings from your local office supply store. Bikinis out of chicken wire. Again, this is a plumbing supply, the copper tubing, but it is. Play the accordion. I
do whatever you want with them. So you do a lot of brainstorming,
sculptures, headdresses, any number of things.
Even this hair.
How big is your team?
Not large enough.
No, I was going to say this is a big job.
It is a big job because, of course, so many people are familiar with really our front yard, the State Street windows, but we have windows on all 3 blocks.
That's right, you sure do. And what about the Christmas windows? Let's talk about those, because that's what we all know.
They're being designed and construction will be starting any day.
Okay, and you plan for that how far in advance?
About 18 months or so.
18 months.
So even before the
current one is down.
But for the all through the year windows, how often do they change?
We try to get a 4 to 6 week rotation.
That's a lot of stress.
So once you're done with one, you can't relax.
You're just on to the next.
Right. Well, we love the fact that we can see you now. We can see your windows from here. So we're going to keep track of how often they change.
Thank you.
Okay. Coming in, we'll be watching.
Okay.
And if you'd like more information about all those beautiful Fields windows, just go to our website. That is at abc7chicago.com. Remember to click on Extra.
Selfridge learned the retail business from Marshall Field, the founder of the legendary Chicago department store. He was taken on in 1879 as a 23-year-old stock clerk on $10 a week and made junior partner just 11 years later. His ambitious nature is still folklore at the store.
So I understand he came here as a very young man and was promoted.
He really worked his way up the ladder. He had a real advocate in Marshall Field who saw, I think, much of himself in Selfridge. Just a go-getter. They called him Mile-a-Minute Harry because he always had a new idea and he didn't waste any time, and if you got in his way, he was going to run right over you. And he did actually make some end runs around people who opposed him, going straight to Marshall Field and saying, and some of those people were then replaced. and he took their job.
So why did he move to England? What was it about Marshall Field?
In 1904, as much of an advocate and supporter as Marshall Field had been to him, it was still always going to be just his name on the building. And there was not going to be a Marshall Field and Selfridge and Company. And he was more than ready to make that break.